If you're considering applying for asylum in the United States, you need to watch this video because I'm going to walk you through 7 critical errors that asylum applicants make all the time with their applications. These are mistakes that can seriously damage your chances for success, and we're starting right now. I'm Brian Manning, and I spent 11 years working for the government's 2 main agencies for asylum and refugee matters. But now, as an asylum lawyer, my law firm helps immigrants all over the country to secure their future in America through asylum. Let me know in the comments, by the way, if you've got an asylum case pending or maybe you're considering applying. And look, I'd especially like to hear from you. If you've been waiting for your asylum interview with USCIS for multiple years, let me know in the comments how long you've been waiting. The asylum application process is complex and unforgiving. The form itself, called Form I-589, is lengthy and confusing. Every piece of your application matters, and even small mistakes can give the asylum officer a reason to doubt your case or outright deny you. Okay, 7 mistakes. First mistake, ignoring or misunderstanding the instructions for the Form I-589. Now, the instructions for the asylum application are detailed and kind of confusing, but you absolutely must read them carefully and follow them exactly, or your application could be rejected and sent back to you. So here's a perfect example. Buried on page 5 of the instructions, there's a sentence that says that if a question doesn't apply to you, or if you don't know the information requested in it, you must answer none, or not applicable, or unknown. Now, this single instruction has caused thousands of applications to be rejected. People naturally leave blank the questions that just don't apply to them, right? So for instance, Part A2 asks for information about your spouse and your children. So if you're not married and you don't have children, you'd think that you should skip that section entirely, right? Wrong. You have to write none or not applicable in every single space where something can be written. It's tedious and actually ridiculous, but if you don't do it, they could send your application back to you. Now, you wouldn't know about this requirement unless you read every word of those instructions. So do take the time to go through them line by line. Okay, second asylum application mistake, not properly addressing the 1-year filing deadline. Look, you're required to file your asylum application within 1 year of arriving in the United States. And if you didn't meet that deadline, you need to explain why in Part C, Question 5 of Form I-589. This is where so many people mess up. They either leave it completely blank or maybe give a 1-word answer or write something vague like, I didn't know about the deadline. I gotta tell you, that's not good enough. The asylum officer needs to understand what specific circumstances prevented you from filing on time. Now, maybe you didn't know about asylum, maybe you were just too traumatized to take action on your case, or maybe your circumstances changed after you'd been here for a while. But whatever your reason may be, you need to be specific and explain your reasoning clearly in this section. And definitely don't just write, see my attached statement. Actually explain it right there on the form with enough detail that the officer understands your situation and why it qualifies as an exception to the 1-year filing deadline. By the way, if you want to maximize your chances for asylum success, then please hit the subscribe button and the bell notification so that you don't miss the insights that I share on this channel. All right, third asylum application mistake, being too vague in your answers on the application form. Look, you're not expected to write super lengthy responses on the application form, but that does not mean that you can give answers so vague that the asylum officer has no idea what you're talking about. So on page 5 at Part B, Question 1B, it asks whether you fear harm if returned to your country. And if you check yes, the instructions ask you to explain what harm you fear, who would harm you, and why you believe that you would in fact be harmed. And a lot of people in answering this just write, I fear the government will hurt me, see my personal statement for details. Now that answer is far too vague. It doesn't say what kind of harm exactly. Imprisonment, is it physical violence? Is it death or something else? And it doesn't specify who within the government would do the harm. And it just completely ignores the why part of the question. Now look, a much better response would be something like, I fear local police officers will imprison me indefinitely because I publicly opposed the government. They have threatened to do this to me, and they detained me overnight 3 times after I held up anti-government signs at protests. Now that response actually answers all 3 parts of the question, and it gives the officer meaningful information. Now, I would actually recommend beefing it up by adding a few more sentences that provide a little more detail, such as what the precise threats were and when they occurred. All right, fourth asylum application mistake, failing to provide sufficient detail about the harm that you've suffered and the protected ground. The asylum law requires you to show that you've suffered persecution or that you're likely to suffer persecution that's connected to one of the 5 protected grounds under U.S. asylum law. Those are your race, religion, nationality, political opinion, or something called membership in a particular social group. Now, many applicants will say in their application form something like, "Some men beat me up," without providing any detail about what actually happened, how severe the beating was, or what lasting impact it had on them. You see, the asylum officer needs to understand not just that something bad happened, but rather that it was serious enough to constitute persecution in the way that term is used under U.S. asylum law. You see, you need to explain what happened in concrete detail. Like, how were you harmed exactly? What were your injuries? Did you require medical treatment? How has this affected you both physically and psychologically? Now, the same principle applies to the protected ground. You need to make it crystal clear what it is about you. Is it your political beliefs, your religion, your ethnicity, whatever, that motivates the persecution against you? What's causing them to want to harm you? Don't make the officer guess or try to connect the dots themselves. Spell it out clearly. Okay, 5th mistake, creating inconsistencies within your application materials. Now, maybe in one section of the application form, you say that you were detained 3 times, but elsewhere you mention 4 detentions. Or you say that an incident happened in June, but then elsewhere in the application form, you indicate it was July. Now look, even sophisticated people who are telling the truth make these kinds of mistakes. The problem is that inconsistencies destroy your credibility. Many asylum officers follow a 3 strikes and you're out rule. 3 inconsistencies and they'll deny you. But honestly, sometimes they'll deny you for a single inconsistency if it concerns something that's really central to your claim. Some inconsistencies are obviously more serious than others. So getting confused, about whether your persecutor's name was Miguel or Maria is a pretty big deal. Mixing up whether something happened on a Tuesday or maybe it was a Wednesday, well, that's less critical. But look, even small inconsistencies like this can count against you. So before you submit your application, carefully review every single bit of it to make sure that all the facts line up consistently. Check dates, names, locations, and the sequence of events to ensure that everything matches across your entire application packet. Okay, 6th asylum application mistake, letting someone else complete your application for you. Look, I cannot tell you how many asylum cases got completely ruined because applicants used unqualified immigration consultants, or notarios as they're called, to help them. Now, these people are not licensed attorneys and they're not qualified to handle asylum applications. It's as simple as that. Big problems emerge when they make errors in the application, or maybe they include information that just isn't true. These form preparers are often lazy and will submit your application with information from one of their other clients' cases still in it. So your application might say that you have siblings when you don't, or it might list jobs that you never actually had. These errors get discovered at your interview and can be grounds for denial. Even worse, many preparers will create content with completely made up details. And when these come to light during your interview, it destroys your case. If you're going to get help, please work with a real licensed U.S. immigration attorney who will work with you to complete the application form properly. And look, you need to know and understand every single thing in your application. All right, 7th and final application form mistake on our list for today, lying, embellishing, or exaggerating in your application. Look, don't lie, don't embellish, don't exaggerate. This will get you denied and it could harm any future immigration applications. Your application should contain nothing but the truth. I've seen so many people get denied because it was clear that they were lying or being deceptive. And what's truly sad is that this sometimes happens to applicants who would have been granted asylum based on the true facts of their case. They went and added false details thinking it would strengthen their claim, but instead it got them denied. You see, asylum officers are trained to detect fraud and inconsistencies. And if they catch you in a lie, even about something that seems minor, well, it can unravel your entire case. So please be honest and forthcoming, okay? If you're ready to take the next step and get help with your asylum case, then please call my office today. That number is 713-909-0401. And remember, we help people all over the country, so it doesn't matter where you live. Call us right now to schedule an asylum strategy session so that we can help you to secure your future in America through asylum. Again, I'm Brian Manning, and it's truly an honor to support you in your asylum journey.